All right.
Yeah. Yeah. We're on.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're in. Welcome again to Roll for Effort.
Howdy ho.
Hi-ho. So, tonight we're going to be doing something a little different. This is more of this is the true DM behind the screen pure session where we talk about DM play styles and tricks and tips and our thoughts on what we're learning from the games we're running. Because we're very active DMs. I mean, Joe
Yeah.
and I each probably play 1 to 2 games a week, if not way more for Joe, because Joe plays a million games a week. But uh, it's real.
I don't game master all of them though.
Oh, that's true. Well, and that's a balance must be struck there.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, a lot is gained by being a player in a game, and that's a subject we're definitely going to talk about, I think, in the future. So tonight we wanted to start off with like the basics, right? This week we're going to talk about theater of the mind. Next month we're going to talk about the opposite of that, right? So this evening, DM style, theater of the mind. Joe, what is theater of the mind DMing?
Theater of the mind DMing. That's it varies in the sense that you don't really have terrain on the table. You don't have a map space out for people to move their tokens around. It's literally painting that picture for your mind. Um, like the scene we have before us here, our backdrop.
Right.
The obviously you could drop that picture out. You could build a campsite, terrain wise, and run that, and everybody can move their piece and know exactly where their position on the fire is. But the theater of the mind is taking this image and going more into the. You can hear the crickets chirping. You can hear the leaves rustling above you. Somewhere a wolf is howling into the darkness. The heat from the fire, you can feel it basking across your skin, warming parts of it. Your back is chill. The sound of your companions slumbering, the soft breathing, the snores as the rest of you sit awake talking. What are you talking about this evening in the glow of this fire?
Yeah.
It's
And that's
painting that picture with your words.
exactly, and that's so beautiful, right? Like that is, Dave wanted us to talk about the pros and cons of theater of the mind, and to me, a thing that I adore about theater of the mind gameplay is the pros, the language, the narrative language that you can deploy. That just it paints a picture that is sometimes so real to the person who is. So the DM is telling you what's going on, right? And when you get into the game as a player in a theater of the mind game, there is a weird state of mind that you can achieve where suddenly you start imagining everything the DM is saying, infusing that narrative language, and there is no set of terrain on this planet that could look as beautiful, as spectacular, full of wonder as what you can craft in your mind, because the scale you have available there is infinite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing I do want to point out for theater of the mind, the best resource you have for getting into a theater of the mind style play is read. Whether you pick up a physical book and you're reading or you're using Audible, you need this influx of words. It literally, through osmosis of a sense, it improves your vocabulary. It broadens your thought on how to describe things, because a book literally is a theater of the mind in your hands. It's describing things in such a way that you can see them.
Right.
It's the heart of theater of the mind. You're literally telling a story at the table, but your story in theater of the mind is influenced also by player actions, which, like any game, I mean, but definitely the biggest thing I could say for getting into that mindset of how to run theater of the mind is to read, and read a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some amazing books like I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and so there are some like great courses, audiobooks that are out there on storytelling, but not just storytelling as like how to write a story, with story structure, but storytelling as in the old way of like public performance where people would storytell.
Exactly. But one of the pitfalls, I guess it almost kind of falls into the cons, is over describing. You can get hung up on the minutia of detail and spend time describing things that really aren't that important, and that can kind of end up getting your players lost. So you definitely want to give enough description to set the scene so that everybody kind of knows where things are, what's happening. But you don't want to go overboard by describing what each of the leaves look like.
Yeah.
Just give like that rough description of like the sound of the leaves, or the smell of the dew, or the fresh rain, or the crunch of the leaves under your foot. Wait, but there was a snap of a branch just barely in the back. Something is in the woods with you. Roll for initiative.
Right.
Like there are things that like you want to draw attention to, and things you can kind of just give them like their cursory touch and let them like float off into the back.
Yeah, and there's definitely a danger zone there where you're hitting like the J.R.R. Tolkien level of description, where your players are going to start to like drift off, and the real problem with that is it isn't that it's beautiful like what you're saying, it's that they'll lose concentration on where they're at, because that's another con of Theater of the Mind, is that your players have to have like a little bit higher level of focus along with yourself about where everything is located in your mind space, and you just don't have the processor, the mental processor to I mean, maybe you do, but a lot of people don't have the mental processor needed to like have perfect recollection, like a computer program of where everything is located in like a 3D matrix in your brain. It just doesn't exist. It doesn't work that way. And I have found in Theater of the Mind games that I will fall into that pit trap a lot, where I will drift off into this big long discussion about this combat that's going on, and then I'll get to the next player and they're like, where is this and where am I? And it happens.
Right, that's definitely the danger of going too far or getting lost in like your own description. I've done that more times than I can count.
Yeah.
And I do want to point out, everybody out there, watching this video, Theater of the Mind does not mean that there's nothing on your table except character sheets. By all means, like this image we have here, you can put out an image to kind of set that tone for, where the space is at. Real quick, this might muck everything up, but you can put out a quick bit, just to say that like, you've come into this new chamber. You're standing on the precipice, this gash in the ground before you. You can smell like a rancid odor coming up from beneath. Yep. Chill run down your spine as you know that this is the only way forward.
Yeah.
So things like that can really like, and it's just like a quick little picture to kind of help set it, but it can be a thing for people. It gives them something to look at. It's something to focus on. Without the need for going for the full-blown tabletop, terrain setups and things.
And that was one of the ingenious things that TSR did long ago. They would include at the back of their books or in like a separate flip book, a set of images so that you reach certain wondrous landmarks or places like that. They would flip and they would show you the image, and that was really cool because it would also help inform your own mental creation of the space. Like, oh, this is what that looks like.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a way to ground the players in this is what's being described, and things like that can actually even help further narratives or further descriptions beyond that, because they see that and you can describe that, and then when you go on to describe something else, they have that picture in their mind already of, oh, okay, it's going to be similar to that. So it kind of keeps that, I guess you could say, like that style fresh in their mind. Yeah. And good Lord, yes, those Dark Sun, they were famous for those flip books. Those were absolutely wonderful.
Well, and not just Dark Suns. I'm pretty sure there were some other products out there that had stuff like that, or recent products like Barrowmaze, which is amazing, has that in the back of the book. It's got all the images of some of the major places in there.
Right. Fantastic. Do not be afraid of player handouts. Player handouts can escalate.
Yeah.
Or embolden and enhance a Theater of the Mind game.
Yeah.
Even just having the map out, like all the Forgotten Realms, all the Dragonlance, they all came with a world map. throw that sucker right down on your table. And that's something already that's going to help ground everything for the theater of the mind.
Yeah.
Even if they're in just this little spot here out of this vast map, it's still something on the table that gives a focus and a grounding to where this theater of the mind is going.
Yeah, fantasy art is a crucial thing that I think you need in almost any game, even with theater of the mind. It's one of the things I think that really kind of sets our hobby apart and defines it, is having those sort of works of arts to reference. And like you said, like I do that every game that I run for a home group. I literally I have a vinyl map that I have printed out, and I lay it out on the table, and it just sits there. And 90% of the time, it's not touched or used or looked at, but it's there in case the players have a wandering eye and they want something interesting to look at, so not just staring at each other and the walls, the ceiling.
Right.
But it just helps kind of ground out what's going on. So, Joe, I'm going to shift tracks on this really quick here, because this is a fantastic discussion. So, there are pros and cons to theater of the mind gameplay. What are the best parts of theater of the mind that you can take and integrate when you're not playing theater of the mind? Like, what is how do you bring that together? How do you bring that together? I have an answer too. I've got an answer, but I'm just curious what you think.
All right, like how to integrate it, like as if you were using terrain at the table.
Like,
how to
well, not even just
that, or
maybe that needs to be a separate conversation. Maybe we need to do an episode where we just talk about like bringing them together.
Okay.
What are the best ways to use theater of the mind? Like, when should you use the theater of the mind? Because you and I are talking beforehand, and something that's kind of obvious is that you don't have to use theater of the mind all the time, and you don't have to use it just sometimes. Like, when are the best times to use it? When does it shine the most at a table?
I think, funny enough, like, combat can be a little tricky. You really have to be on your toes for combat, but I think the best places it shines are in more of, I guess you could say, like, in the travel aspect. When, like, they're going from A to B, like, you've got your quest, you know where you're going, you were at the tavern in town, you know that, Farmer Dan, like, his sheep had gone missing, and he's already told you, like, there were tracks leading out, but for you to see for yourself, you need to travel from this tavern where Farmer Dan has begged for your help and you've agreed to help. You need to travel to his farm. And the easiest way for that is theater of the mind, to give that quick narrative for that transition moment, as it were, which I know we've done in some of our Dragon's Reach games. That transition moment of, kind of cutting, like, what might have been if the players were walking 3 hours, say. Farmer Dan lives out way at the edges of the town. And the easiest way is to just give that quick theater of the mind narrative of walking through the town, and slowly, as you leave through the gates, the hustle and bustle of the merchants district kind of starts falling behind and is replaced with the rustling of grass of the farm fields around. And you cut into, like, the shadows sweeping across from the clouds throughout the sunny sky. And soon it's replaced with the rustle of leaves as you finally break in through the forest into Farmer Dan's, plot that's just right along the edge of the forest line.
Yeah.
And you can smell the earthiness of the farmland itself, and there you see it, the gore of the sheep that have gone missing. They were split and blood was spilled, and there are distinct tracks leading away from it. And then you let the players go right back into their narrative stuff, back into their play.
I get to roll for initiative now, right? After you went through all that, like we can just play right now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Roll for initiative. Who's kicking that scene off?
Yeah, no kidding. For me, and I think you nailed it too, like, I have 2 times when I think that it shines the most. The first is just about every time you do a major transition, or a minor transition even, really. Like, and we talked about this with Alex on the channel. He came on once and we talked about this. Like, in the old days, we used to dungeon crawl, like, step by step. And nowadays, it makes a whole lot more sense to just go, is it the case you're going to go to the next room, down the hall? Okay, great. You're at the next room.
Right? Right? Yeah, if there's nothing important happening there, you can certainly transition right over it.
Yeah. It's just a couple of quick narrative words, about the stench of rotting flesh. It becomes a little bit more pungent as you can feel drops of moisture dripping down from the cave's ceiling on your head, and you go forward and the room begins to open up. That's sort of like how you can just immediately walk you to the next place without having to break the verisimilitude of like you're in the game moment. You can just keep walking them through narratively, and I think that there's so much value in doing that.
Exactly. You don't have to I kind of went overboard on the describing. My bad. But yeah, it doesn't even have to take a lot of words.
I thought it was beautiful. I don't ever change, Joe. Don't ever do that differently. And then the second time for me, because there's 2 times for me, and it is actually it's a transition too. But I think that Theater of the Mind works really well when you have a big finish setup. Before you're about to do something really huge, to lay out wonder.
Yes.
We did a game recently where we almost the entire game was landing a warp shell on the Devourer, and it was all Theater of the Mind. And I look back on that, and I got some great feedback on that, because I think there are parts of that probably didn't need to be Theater of the Mind. But the fact is, I don't think that could have been relayed any other way. I think it had to have been Theater of the Mind, because the scale of it was just so huge.
Exactly. Right on the nose. Sometimes the scope is so big that if you were to craft the pieces in nothing against playing with terrain. I love playing with terrain. I love playing with detailed maps. But just the sheer thought of, for a scene like that, like the one we played, where we were trying to land our ship while there was a huge space battle going on around us, onto the back of a planet-sized beast.
Right.
The number of set pieces that you would have to build that could kind of only be used just for that one scene would just be mind-numbing to try and pull that off. And Theater of the Mind is a great way to just blow that scope and go big, go home, go into like you said, bring the wonder. That's exactly a perfect and beautiful moment to do that. And that's one that can be integrated right in with tabletop terrain play as well. Yeah. I know that's a whole other topic, but there's just a little segue bridge for future.
Yeah, and I think that's our next. I think the next time that we meet to talk about DM play styles, that we're going to talk about the terrain DM, because there's definitely pros and cons to that are amazing, and that would change your game if you've never tried it. So I think that's another subject we're going to broach, is to be super, super good to talk about that.
Exactly.
Yeah, so everybody out there, seriously, if you have any thoughts on Theater of the Mind gameplay, put it down in the comments below. Let us know. If you like this video, share it with people, let them know about it. We appreciate you, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful holiday as we approach the holiday here rather quickly. And,
yes.
Good night, and thank you for joining us.
Questions. Give us your questions.
Yes, we need those questions.
We answer them.
Yeah. Fuel us.
And as the fire crackles and pops, the party has fallen asleep. The lone figure standing watch looks around into the darkness. That's all I got.
Beautiful.
I love it. Going somewhere, but it went nowhere.
Nice. I'm rolling the thing. We're gonna roll the credits. Thanks again, everybody. We love you.
Have a great night, folks.
Is that your initiative roll? Man, that's high. How am I supposed to beat that?